Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we are tackling a question that I think it kind of lurks in the back of everyone's mind.
Yeah.
Usually around, 3 a.m. when you're staring in the ceiling. It's this creeping sensation. Is like the place you call home actually working against you?
It's that feeling that you're on a treadmill.
Yeah.
Right. And someone is just slowly increasing the incline.
Exactly. You're running faster just to stay in the same spot. And we're not just talking about, inflation at the grocery store. We're talking about something more structural. Is your country, your city, is it effectively lifting wealth from your pocket quietly, month after month?
And to get at that, we're looking at some pretty provocative content from a channel called Cost of Living Insider.
Yeah.
And having gone through their outlook for 2025, 2026.
Yeah.
Well, they call their own analysis plain and sharp.
Plain and sharp is a polite way of putting it. This is not a travel brochure. It's more like a financial autopsy of the global real estate market.
Right.
So we're going to walk through what they call the exit plan.
Which is really about this idea of a wealth exodus. It's about why people are moving, where they're actually going, and the specific financial benchmarks. We're going to talk a lot about the number $2,500 that are driving these huge life decisions.
So if you're listening and you've ever, Googled how to move to Portugal after a bad day at work, or you're just kind of clutching your savings account.
Hoping it survives.
Yeah, hoping it survives the next 2 years. Stick around. We are going to look at the housing trap, the weirdly counterintuitive safety of New York City, and how you can supposedly retire 10 years early just by changing your zip code.
Let's dive in.
So I want to start with what they call the push factors. The source material uses this phrase right out of the gate that, it sounds like a movie title. The wealth exodus.
It does. It feels dramatic, doesn't it? Like we're talking about the fall of Rome or something.
Right. But when you look at the data they're citing, exodus might actually be the right word.
Yeah, I think so. They aren't just talking about, backpackers or digital nomads looking for cheap beer. They are highlighting a trend of millionaires, high net worth individuals fleeing specific countries.
And which ones are they?
Specifically the UK and Canada.
See, that's what really caught my eye. Because millionaires, they usually have the buffer to weather a storm, right? If inflation is high, they just pay it. If taxes go up, they hire better accountants. So why are they running?
That's the whole canary in the coal mine moment. In finance, we call this smart money.
Okay, smart money. I hear that term a lot. What does it actually mean in this context?
It's basically the people who have access to high-level tax strategists, financial planners, that kind of forward-looking economic data. They aren't reacting to what happened yesterday.
They're positioning for tomorrow.
Exactly. So if they're heading for the exits, it's a signal that the structural integrity of the economy might be compromised. The source argues they aren't leaving for better weather, they are fleeing wealth erosion.
So it's not about getting a tan. It's about stopping the bleeding.
That's it. In the UK and Canada, Cost of Living Insider argues that the combination of rising tax burdens, the high cost of living, and stagnant growth has turned these economies into wealth extractors.
Meaning you work, you earn, and the system just takes a bigger and bigger cut.
And you're left with less purchasing power than you had the year before.
And this ties right into the other concept they really hammer home, which, frankly, it terrified me, the great housing trap. They specifically point the finger at Canada and Australia for this one. But walk me through this. Usually we're told housing is the golden ticket, right? You buy a house, you sit on it, you retire rich. How is it a trap?
That's the traditional narrative. That was the rule for the last, 40 years?
Yeah.
But the source argues that in 2025, that narrative is broken. In markets like Toronto, Vancouver, Sydney, the price-to-income ratio is so distorted that a house is no longer an asset that builds wealth for the average person.
So what is it?
It's a liability that just devours cash flow.
You mean you're spending so much just to service the mortgage debt that you can't invest in anything else? You can't save?
Precisely. You become house poor on a massive scale. You aren't building wealth. You're just servicing debt for 30 years. You're essentially working for the bank.
And the trap is that you can't get out easily.
Right. The cost of moving is high, transaction costs are huge, and if the market corrects, which they suggest is a real risk for 2025, you're underwater.
So the smart money sees this bubble, sees capital gains taxes potentially rising, and they just say, I'm out.
They do. They liquidate the asset while it's high, and they move the capital to a jurisdiction where it's treated better. That is the essence of the wealth exodus.
Okay, so that's the doom and gloom. The house is a trap, taxes are eating you alive, the rich are leaving. If I'm listening, I'm thinking, great, thanks for the panic attack.
Right, but I can't just move to the Cayman Islands.
Exactly. I have family, I have a job. Does the source offer anything for the person who wants to stay on this continent?
They do, actually. And this was, for me, one of the most surprising parts of their analysis. They have this whole section on the domestic option, basically. Affordable cities in the US and Canada to retire in 2026.
And they put a specific price tag on this, didn't they?
They did. The benchmark for their whole domestic strategy is under $2,500 a month.
Okay, let's just pause on that number. $2,500 a month in 2025 dollars. That feels, it feels doable, but also really tight if you're used to a major city lifestyle.
It is tight. That's $30,000 a year post-tax. So to stay in North America and keep your burn rate under that,
Yeah.
you have to be surgical. You can't just pick the trendy spots.
But this is where the source threw me a curveball. They start talking about safety versus cost. And in the middle of a discussion about affordable retirement, they bring up New York City.
I know. I had to reread that part twice.
Right. When I think cheap retirement, I think, rural Alabama, maybe a small town in the Midwest. I do not think Manhattan. How on earth does NYC fit into a budget conversation?
It sounds completely counterintuitive, but the source frames it around a very specific metric: total cost of aging.
Total cost of aging. Okay, unpack that for me. Because my rent check in NYC would definitely disagree with the word cheap.
So imagine you move to that dirt cheap rural town. Your rent is, say, $800. Amazing, right?
That's great.
But there's no public transit. You need a car for everything: groceries, doctor's appointments, gas, insurance, repairs, depreciation. That's easily another $800 to $1,000 a month right there.
Okay, I see where you're going. The car is kind of a hidden tax.
It's a huge hidden tax. And then think about healthcare. You have a health scare. The local hospital is underfunded or doesn't have the specialists you need, so you have to travel 3 hours, or you get subpar care that leads to complications. The financial risk of that isolated location is massive.
Whereas in New York City,
In New York, you don't need a car. That's a massive expense, just gone, poof. And you have access to some of the best public hospitals and specialists in the world within a subway ride.
so the argument is that while the rent is higher, the infrastructure actually subsidizes your life. The safety creates financial value.
Exactly. It's the difference between the sticker price and the total cost of ownership. The source lists these 7 safest U.S. cities where you can still live for cheap, and the common thread isn't just low rent, it's infrastructure efficiency.
That is a really fascinating way to look at it. It challenges you to define affordability more broadly. Is it just the rent check? Or is it, the ability to survive without a car and stay alive?
That's it. So the domestic strategy is about compromise. You can stay, but you have to thread this very fine needle between safety, healthcare, and that $2,500 budget.
But for a growing number of people, and this goes back to the smart money, that compromise is it's becoming too hard to manage.
They look at the US and Canada and say, even with the needle threading, the math just doesn't work for me.
And that leads us to the section of the source material that feels the most, urgent, the international option. This is for the people who are ready to rip the Band-Aid off.
Yeah, this is where we shift from optimization to transformation.
One of the videos they had was titled 10 Countries Where Americans Can Move in 24 Hours. That title creates such a visceral reaction. It speaks to a very specific kind of panic, doesn't it?
It's a powerful hook. It's about bureaucratic friction. It highlights countries with visa policies so open or borders so accessible that you aren't trapped by red tape.
It's psychological freedom. I'm not stuck here, I could go.
Exactly. But then comes the financial hook. We talked about $2,500 for the domestic option.
Yeah.
When you go international, the source drops the benchmark.
Down to what?
Under $2,000 a month.
So you save $500 a month. That's nice, but is it life-changing? Is it worth leaving your friends and family for $500?
It's not just the $500. It's what that money buys you. And, more importantly, what it does to your timeline. The source has a breakdown on 7 safe countries where you can retire 10 years early.
Retire 10 years early. Okay, that is a massive promise. How does the math on that actually work? Because it sounds like a scam.
It's not a scam. It's a concept called geo-arbitrage.
Geo-arbitrage. Okay, explain that like I'm 5.
Okay, so let's say you're living in Toronto or Sydney. To retire safely, given the high costs, you probably need a nest egg of, $2 million to generate enough passive income?
Which takes decades to save. You're grinding till you're 65, 70.
Decades. But if you move to a country like Portugal or Panama or Thailand, a place where the cost of living is structurally lower, where you can live extremely well on $2,000 a month,
Your freedom number drops.
it plummets.
Yeah.
You don't need to generate $80,000 a year anymore. You only need $24,000. So instead of a $2 million nest egg, you might only need $600,000, maybe $800,000.
So if you already have that 800,000 saved, you just don't need to work that extra decade to get the second million.
You trade location for time, you enter a lower cost economy with your stronger currency, and boom, you are retired in 2026 instead of 2036. You just bought 10 years of your life back.
That is the exit plan in a nutshell. Wow, it's not just about spending less, it's about buying your life back sooner.
But we have to be honest about the trade-off. There's always a catch.
There's always a catch.
To get that sub $2,000 lifestyle and buy back that decade, you are leaving the safety net. You're leaving the known healthcare system, the legal system, the cultural familiarity.
Right. You're trading the slow bleed of the housing trap for the unknown risk of a new frontier.
Which brings us to the final, and I think the most sophisticated part of this source material. We've talked about survival, cheap rent, but the 2025 exit plan goes a step further. It talks about financial engineering.
This is where we graduate from scrounging for savings to wealth preservation. The source has a video explicitly titled, How to Move, Buy Property, and Pay 0% Tax.
0%. That's the holy grail, right?
Yeah. Is that even legal? I mean, usually when someone says 0% tax, I assume someone's going to jail.
It is legal if you understand how the world works. The source is likely referring to countries with what are called territorial tax systems.
Okay, break that down for us.
Most Western countries, especially the US, tax you on your worldwide income. If you live in America, Uncle Sam wants a cut of everything you earn, everywhere.
Right.
But countries with territorial systems, places like Malaysia, Costa Rica, historically Panama, they generally only tax you on money earned inside their borders.
So if my income comes from a pension in Canada or a stock portfolio in London?
The territorial country often taxes that at 0%. They just don't care about it because it wasn't earned in their local economy.
Wow, so you combine that 0% tax rate with the lower cost of living. That is a double whammy.
And that connects right back to their headline. Retire like a millionaire on $2,500 a month.
Right. I wanted to ask about that. We're back to the $2,500 number, but now we're living like a millionaire. How does that work?
It's all about purchasing power parity. Let's do the math. If you earn $5,000 a month in London, the government takes, what, 30–40% in taxes? You're left with roughly $3,000.
Okay.
Then rent takes $2,000. You have $1,000 left for everything else. You are scraping by, you feel poor.
That sounds familiar to a lot of people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, take that same income stream to a tax-free haven. You keep the full $5,000 because the tax is 0. The cost of living is half, so your rent is $1,000 for a luxury villa with a pool. You now have $4,000 of disposable income in a cheap country.
So your disposable income just quadrupled and the prices of everything dropped.
That's it. $2,500 in a zero-tax, low-cost haven spends like $10,000 wood in a major Western city. That is how you retire like a millionaire on a middle-class budget.
It's incredible. The source is really presenting a three-part ladder here, a progression.
It is. It's a progression of radicalization in a way.
So let's recap the rungs. What's the bottom rung?
The bottom rung is just awareness. It's recognizing the housing trap. It's admitting that in places like Canada, Australia, the UK, the game has changed.
Realizing you're on that treadmill.
Yeah. And the middle rung.
The middle rung is mitigation. That's the domestic option. If you can't or won't leave, you have to be incredibly strategic. You find those safe and cheap pockets where you can balance everything. You're playing defense.
And the top rung.
The top rung is the exit, the offensive strategy. You move to a tax-free haven, you geo-arbitrage your currency, and you retire 10 years early.
It's fascinating because the source frames this all around 2025 and 2026. This isn't a history lesson, it's a forecast.
And that urgency is key, right? They're saying the window is open now, but markets change.
That's a good point. I mean, if everyone listens to this Cost of Living Insider channel and moves to the same tax-free haven in Panama, doesn't that haven stop being cheap?
Absolutely. It's the gentrification of the exit. We see this all over. A place gets discovered, the digital nomads and retirees flood in, rents double, and the advantage disappears.
So the exit plan really works best for the early adopters. Speed is a factor.
Right. If you wait until it's on the front page of the New York Times, you're probably too late. So what does this all mean for the listener? I mean, most people aren't going to pack their bags tonight.
No, and they shouldn't. Moving countries is hard. It's traumatic. But I think it means you need to audit your own situation. You need to ask yourself, am I in a trap?
Is my housing situation an asset, or is it a liability that's forcing me to work until I'm 80?
Exactly. And could I live on $2,500 a month if I had to? If the answer is no, you are vulnerable. Even if you stay, just knowing where those safe and cheap pockets are, that's valuable data.
It's about building resilience. Knowledge is the hedge against uncertainty.
The source is providing a menu of alternatives. You don't have to order the whole menu, but you should at least know what's on it.
It really is a comprehensive roadmap for a very uncertain couple of years.
For sure.
And as we wrap up, there's one thought that keeps nagging at me. We've talked a lot about the smart money leaving. We've talked about millionaires fleeing the UK and Canada.
Right.
But here's the question. If the smart money leaves, if all the financially savvy retirees execute this exit plan and take their tax revenue and their spending powers somewhere else, what happens to the cost of living for the people who stay behind?
That is the million-dollar question, isn't it? If the tax base erodes, does the government just raise taxes on the middle class to compensate?
Do the safe cities of today become the traps of tomorrow simply because everyone who could afford to leave left?
It's a distinct possibility. The exit plan might be great for the individual, but it could accelerate the decline of the very system they're leaving.
A tragedy of the commons, global style. Something to chew on as you check your bank balance. Thanks for listening to The Deep Dive. We'll catch you next time.
Stay safe out there.